Every song should end in those giant drum, boom, 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 boom. Welcome back to another episode of Meet the Ecamm Fam. Hi, everyone, and happy pre-Thanksgiving if you're in the United States. It is the Wednesday before a long holiday weekend here, so hopefully you are getting ready for some fun times with family. And if you're hanging out here from Canada or somewhere else, then happy Wednesday. Hope you're off to a really great week. This is the show where we bring the members of the Ecamm Fam in front of you all to show you some of the cool and incredible things that people are doing and creating using Ecamm. And if you have stumbled here and you have no idea what Ecamm is, well, then you are in for a surprise. It is the software that powers all of these live streams and video recordings and podcasts and webinars and everything in between. It is available at ecamm.com. You can learn more and grab your free trial today, as Mark is saying, boom, boom, boom. Yeah, right? It's all about the fun music, really, to kind of like amp you up in the pre-show. Well, a huge shout out to Mark and to Matt, Paul, Steve. I see Zahid is here. Xavier is hanging out with us today. It looks like George is here as well. So thank you so much for spending time with us in the chat. If you are here with us live, feel free to drop a Q colon and ask any questions that you have. More than happy to answer those here live. And if you're watching in the replay, you can still ask questions. We always circle back and answer everything that we see come through in the replay. So you are welcome. You are welcome. Matt, yeah, you're right. You know, some people just don't know what Ecamm is yet. So, you know, hey, you never know. I am loving that so many people have been so willing to jump on this show and share their experiences with me. So if you're sitting here and you're like, wait a second, I can be on this show. You can be on this show. And I see some of you haven't yet signed up who are here in the chat. So if you jump into the description below, you'll see a link. You can just click and add yourself to the show, add yourself as a guest. What everyone always says when they pop in the tech check before we get started is, hang on, I've never been a guest at Ecamm before. So it's a great situation to get to just practice a little bit and see what it's like being a guest in a safe space, in an encouraging space. Well, before I get too off track, because it's Wednesday and I'm gearing up for an exciting weekend, I want to just let you know a little bit about our guest today. Stan is hanging out with us. He is from the Seattle area. He's a cartoonist, which I have so many just like creative cartooning art questions, but he does some really neat things with Ecamm that I think are a little bit different. He defined himself, which he's going to regret, but he defined himself as a non-techie person when he was signing up to be on this show, which I think is both great, and I want to pick his brain a little bit more about that because he's doing some things that I think are pretty techie and pretty awesome. But without further ado, welcome to the show, Stan. We're so glad you're here today.
Thank you for having me, Katie. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh my gosh, it's a joy. I just love like creative people and the creative cool things that they do. So you're like the epitome of this because you are artistic and you're doing all these like incredible things with your shows. But before I get too excited and geek out a little bit too much, everyone say, Stan!
Marianne, hey Marianne,
You
good
have
to
an
see you.
exclamation mark after your brand, so now we just need to yell your name. But why don't you give
I mean,
people
that's
a
that's the secret of the exclamation point is people have to sound happy to see me.
that is really smart. I might have to steal that idea and add that to the end to be like the immediate
That's good.
enthusiasm added to the end of your
But
name.
Stan? You mean Stan?
You mean
Yes,
Stan?
Stan.
Stan, yeah. It works really well too for a cartoonist. So I think it's a perfect brand choice for you. Well, why don't I know you have two different shows that you do with Ecamm. So before we jump
At
too
least.
much into the weeds, yeah, at least, right? Why don't you let us know what those are, so that we have a good background before we jump
Okay.
in and ask you how you're building them.
All right. My two regular shows. One is an interview show that is celebrating the fact that 2024 is the 50th anniversary of the game Dungeons and Dragons. The other thing, so I am a cartoonist. Yes, I'm many other things, and for a large part of my life, I've been a game designer who has worked on the game Dungeons and Dragons. I worked for TSR, the company that created it, and I
So
got
cool.
out to Seattle because that company was bought by Wizards of the Coast out here,
Hmm.
and that's how I got over to the West Coast. So I'm doing this show where it's a combination interview show where I'm interviewing people who have worked on the game over the 50 years, and while we're
Wow.
talking, I'm also doing a cartoon homage to a classic piece of D&D art. So I'll have the art will be on screen as I'm drawing, and both of our faces will be on screen. And oh, Ecamm is what makes that possible.
I I am loving this format for a show. So I think it was last week we had Lala on. It might have been the week
Yeah,
before. Admittedly, it's a bit of a blur the time right now at the end of the year here, but she has a similar format for her show because she's doing craft projects while she's doing an interview,
right.
and I think it's so smart because it feels friendly. It's bringing in like a different element that's just really visually enticing. I think it probably helps also like if people are scrolling through it does that kind of
Yeah.
stop the scroll kind of action. So I love it. I think it's really smart. I've been I try my hand at crafting, so I'm definitely not artistic,
Right.
but I try my hand at crafting and I'm like, maybe I should do something like that where it's like I'm always wanting to do something with my hands and I wonder if that calms guests down a little bit too. Anyone who's nervous about being on
It,
camera,
yeah.
having that
Like
distraction might be nice.
well, not only it calms them down. They'll kind of stop answering a question like, "What are you doing over there?" Uh, but the other thing is, I can tell them, look, it's not just going to be your face on the screen. You'll be
Mm,
on the screen, and if we have something that is important for you to show, like sometimes they bring stuff they want to promote or show, I can switch it back so they get the main large on the screen. But then, other than that, they're still there, but they don't have to feel like everyone's looking up my nostril.
yeah.
Right? It,
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think Dungeons and Dragons is such a cool space anyway because it's so imaginative and it's so much of it is focused on storytelling. So I think it was an interesting shift. I mean, it was a shift for everyone as when the pandemic hit, but I think certainly a shift for that space because in many ways it's in some ways a bit of a natural fit to be able to have these conversations and even play Dungeons and Dragons
yeah,
through Zoom, through live streams in different ways because you're able to kind of, connect with everyone. You can still tell those stories. You can still kind of be creative and have these moments together in a virtual space. Maybe not quite as easily as if you're in real life, but I think it is funny how like I feel like easy or seamless that format
right,
can be for that
right.
space. So I think it's neat. The evolution, 50 years is, I
It's
can't believe
yeah,
the game's
oh,
been around that
it's
long.
crazy. Think about that. But yeah, I tell you, one of the things the pandemic bad for a lot of things, but
Hmm.
this technology was good for, and gamers for years had been trying to. So one of the problems, as you say, is you're gaming. You're used to gaming with people getting together in your space.
Yeah.
Now, the pandemic certainly was one problem, but an ongoing problem for game groups was that people grow up and move so they can't come to each other's houses.
Yeah.
So for years, I knew people who were trying to find a way to overcome that
Mm,
and put it all together. And the technology, you had to really know what you were doing. You could cobble it together. Now it's become much easier
yeah.
for everyone to find a way to do that, and it's a supernatural fit for tabletop gaming and games like Dungeons and Dragons.
Absolutely. And again, I could see that like a tool like Ecamm will allow you if you get really creative with it, like you can have,
Yeah,
overhead different angle, like you could really be able to create this like very interesting and unique experience because you can connect in, multiple cameras as well as having different
yeah.
guests. And so that is incredibly neat. So how did you initially find out about Ecamm? Before we jumped on, you said that you had tried your hand at OBS, which I always love hearing those
Yeah,
experiences.
well, I mean, I kept trying. You know what? When I was a kid, way back in the dark ages, I my life is so weird. So I always wanted to have a show. I mean, I didn't really say it, I didn't feel that, but in my heart, I
Yeah,
always wanted to have a show back then when I don't know if you are old enough to remember those tape recorders, the kind of rectangular tape recorders with
100%.
with
Yes.
cassette tape recorders.
Yeah.
I got one of those and I recorded a radio style uh, in 1976 for the bicentennial. I made a variety show with my
Love
brother and
it.
sister, my family. We just kind of I made up some skits and we did some things. I let my brother and sister have a turn doing some of the stuff they wanted, and I made a show. It was great, um, and it took forever, and I didn't do anything else like that for a while.
Hmm.
But yeah, I've always naturally fallen into the role of kind of host, and so the idea of doing something like this has popped in and out of my life a lot.
Yeah.
I tried to invent the podcast about a year and a half before podcasts became big. Some friends of mine who I knew from working at Wizards of the Coast were trying to create a thing we were just calling internet radio and make a show, but none of us
Yeah.
had the audio chops to do it, and so it
Yeah.
it failed. And then podcasts happened, and we said, too late.
It is
Instead of saying we can do it now.
exactly. It makes me think of the Christian Slater movie Pump Up the Volume. So I'm a huge movie
Yeah,
geek
yeah,
and I absolutely love that movie because there's such a like I don't know, like an intrigue and a cool factor in the idea of this like at the time that movie is all about like pirate radio, right? Like taking over
right.
a radio channel and creating your own show. And I feel like that is just like what
Yeah,
podcasting has now become over the years. And so it's now anyone can do it. And you're right. Like I feel like I grew up in a similar way where I I don't think I ever really realized it until this technology became available and I started doing more content myself. But I love interviewing people and having these kinds of conversations
yeah,
and learning what people are doing. And I love, as you were saying, like the concept of the variety show and of being. But if you had asked me, like, do you want to work in radio? I would have been like, oh no, I don't want to work. I
right.
don't want to
No,
work in radio.
I
Yeah,
spent 10 or 15 years thinking that I had stage fright
yeah, yeah.
because you want to do this? No, I don't want to do. And it took being a teacher to
Mm.
make me realize, oh wait, actually, I do like talking in front of people. It's just got to be on certain terms.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. All right, so you were into variety shows and you were and you were creating your own podcast
Right,
pre-podcast.
the
So
podcast.
so how did that get into okay, I actually want to try to do this and into into where you are now where you have these regular shows. What was the path there?
Well, I mean, I listen to a lot of podcasts and uh, um, a lot of them about creativity.
Sure.
And one of the things about working in the field I did in Dungeons and Dragons, there are a lot of conventions that we would go to, and
Yeah.
we would do seminars that you could get 50 or 100 people to.
A
That
hundred.
these are
Yeah.
great. We should do more of these. And as I was listening to podcasts, I was thinking very often I'd be talking back on, well, that's not what you should do. You should talk about this. Talk about, oh, I wish I was there. Um, so it began more and more to get into my head that I have something to say, apparently.
Yeah. You were in actually like a really perfect space to translate that over. I hadn't even thought about that until you said it, but you're right. Like all of the kind of any kind of like fan group, whether that's, surrounded a TV show or a book series or a game, like you have an existing audience. In many cases, there are these like meetups and conventions and in-person events, and live shows and live streaming and podcasting and video are just like a natural extension of that. Like to be able to
Yeah,
kind of add that into your overall marketing is fantastic, because obviously not everyone is able to get out there in person, and you're giving them the experience to be able to ask their questions and like meet, quote unquote, their
yeah,
heroes, and be able to have those connection points that we never used to have that level of accessibility to before.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, the other side of it was, let's say, I no longer work for Wizards. I no longer
Mhm.
work officially on Dungeons and Dragons, and I haven't for a while. And I kind of segued into a part of my career where I was less visible. Like
Mm.
I was geek famous in the early 2000s, right?
That's the best term
I,
ever. Geek
I
famous.
was
Okay.
I was
Yeah.
definitely geek famous
Sure.
for a hot minute.
Yeah.
But now I'm like the answer to a trivia question, right? And but I'm still here, and I want people to know me.
Yeah.
So I also realized that I needed to start putting myself out there in a way that was accessible. Uh, and one of the challenges I have is that I do so many things, and it's hard for
Mm.
me to lay claim to being the resource for a thing.
Yeah.
But I'm a resource for a real good juncture of things. Um, people seem to know me depending on how they first interacted with my work. They
Mhm.
think that's what I do, and everything else is a sideline.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of people who think I'm a game designer who happens to also cartoon, and other
Mm.
people who think I'm an author who's written some games and does some drawing too. And then a bunch of people think, well, that's the cartoonist, and he plays Dungeons and Dragons too. And the fact of the matter is, I do all of them at a B plus A minus level. Right? Let's say I'm not going to be the all star, but I'm the guy. I'm the in a to go baseball. I'm a utility infielder. You can put me at any position, and I'm not going to let your team down.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think a lot of people
so
struggle with that. I hear that come
yeah,
up, and I know certainly I do, in even in my kind of personal and professional life, is that I have a ton of different interests and a ton of different, niches. We're always like, you need to niche down, you need to find, you need to find like
yeah,
your very
hate that.
specific space, which is so hard for many people, because you do, like, there are lots of different things that, that you're good at, which is why I think you've done an interesting thing in having a show where you are able to highlight your like love of cartooning and of kind of that creative side of you with, the Dungeons and Dragons stuff, and with, with the creativity on that other side, I think is a nice way to kind of mix both of those things together. Again, like not dissimilar to Lala, who is like trying to build this business and brand around, helping. Originally it was moms, and then but it's through the lens of, crafting and spending time together in this in this tech space. So it's, yeah,
Right?
it's, I think it's I think it is probably easier than we all make it, but it is, I think it's hard to think through some of that when there are, more than one interest level. So yeah, I it's that's a it's not a unique challenge, but it's definitely
No,
it's definitely a challenge.
again, I'm not unique,
Yeah.
except that no one's like me.
Oh,
Um,
awesome. Well, I want to. I know I had you prep this all in advance. So if you're okay, I'm going to swing over into your screen share and have you show us
sure,
like what your drawing looks
sure.
like when you're doing this in Ecamm. So I built this a couple seconds. Um, Literally a
All
couple
right.
seconds before we went live. So that's how easy it is to do this kind of thing in Ecamm. So here Stan and I are over on the left-hand side. It looks like you're using Procreate. So that's an
I am.
iPad that's connected in, right?
That is correct.
Awesome.
I do all of my cartooning these days on the iPad,
Love it.
and I stream this over to my I use the Apple Connect to put it onto my uh, desktop as a window, and then I use uh, Ecamm to share that window,
I love
and that way
it.
I can do my drawing and be on the screen at the same time.
I love it. Well, let's draw and
So,
talk. We'll do the format of the show. You can.
all right. So that was the show I was talking about with the interviews. Is this 50 years in the dungeon? That's the name of the show?
I love it.
Wednesday nights at 6 p.m.
Perfect. Perfect. I have some friends
um,
I'm gonna send your way. I definitely it's one of those things I've been thinking about doing for a while is
yeah.
getting into Dungeons and Dragons. So
So these are the drawings. These are the finished drawings I've done, and the at the top we see two that I'm working on. So
I
during
love
a
it.
show, I almost never can finish
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Right. So this here is what it looked like at the end of my show is about an hour. I do about an hour and 10 minutes of drawing. So this
Wow.
is based on a if I open this a different way, you can see that I've got a reference to there. I got a reference to a piece of D&D art. This happens to be from Dragon Magazine number 395. Um, so while I was talking to my guest, I had this up and I was drawing my um, homage to that piece of art. As you can see, this is kind of a serious D&D painting, and what I have is a cartoon.
I love
Um,
this. Again, like
and
there's so
so,
much creativity that can go into thinking through in Ecamm we call them scenes, but like thinking through your
right,
profiles and your scenes. So like I love that you were able to think through, okay, this would be a really amazing experience and how can I do this? Oh, I do all of my drawing on my iPad. I can connect my iPad in and then, we're just coming in as camera overlays. And so as I was doing
right,
earlier, like we could shift any of the cameras around wherever or close them if you didn't want them to be a distraction. So there's a lot of nuance to what you're able to do, but you need to be able to have a good concept, whether you're drawing that out or storyboarding it out or or jotting down the
right.
notes. You need to know what you want, what the end result to be in order to figure out exactly how you want to approach building it in a tool like Ecamm.
And with Ecamm, it's so easy to fiddle around with it. Right?
Yeah.
If
Yep.
you have a rough idea, you can put some stuff together
Yeah.
and on the fly shift it around and say, how does it look like this? What if I do that? And come up with the one that works well.
Yeah, and this is a great question coming in. This is what I definitely wanted us to talk about and cover. So,
Yeah.
can you mention again in between your drawing how you how you connected and shared your iPad on Ecamm? So, how are you connecting it to get it into Ecamm?
Okay, so on the iPad, there's a if you're within an Apple ecosystem, like I
Hmm.
got my iPad, I'm working on my main thing is a Mac Mini.
Yep.
Uh, when you're on the same uh, ecosystem, you have a share screen option
Hmm.
on iPad. It's a little hard to find.
Hmm.
I don't know what the official terms for what it is, but if you do a finger swipe at the side, it pulls down a control panel,
Sure.
and one of the options should be share screen.
Yep.
So I share the screen from my iPad to my desktop, and it's now a window.
Hmm.
And Ecamm, one of the things you can do is share screen.
Yep.
So I share screen and I choose that one.
So
And lo and behold, it's now functions as a camera overlay.
it does. It does. You should be able to as well. And this is one of those things that I actually haven't done a lot of myself, but I believe you can plug your iPad into your computer
Yes.
as well, and it should serve the same. It
I
should
was going to say,
accomplish the same thing.
I know that is something that works. I haven't done it, so
It's all good.
I can't describe it.
It's all good. No, I
Yeah,
love this is the what's kind of cool in many ways about this software is that there's a number of different ways to get to the same outcome. So it's whatever works best for you.
right.
But yeah, you could definitely do things either in many cases wired or wirelessly and in a in a couple of different ways. There's also a screen share overlays too, which give a little bit more control versus just the screen sharing option within Ecamm. So
Right.
yeah, when something works, it works. Exactly, Matt. If it works, leave it
Don't
alone.
ask questions.
Yeah,
Don't look
exactly.
behind the curtain.
Don't look behind the curtain. It's very true. Very true. This is like a
Um,
cool visual too. Like I love that you're able to see kind of the reference photo. Do you typically keep your reference photo up while you're drawing, or it's just to the
yes.
side? Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's neat.
Again, because the show is about the history. So I started this. I should have had the idea last November, but I didn't have it until this January.
No,
So
it's
I just
great.
jumped in, like I had it and I got going because the idea of 50th anniversary and 52 weeks in a year to
Mm,
celebrate it
yeah,
was like I can't pass this up.
yeah.
So in the show, each year I'm doing a piece of art from another year further up the chronology.
Gotcha.
So I started with the year the game uh, debuted in 1974, and then I did a 1974 picture and a 1975 picture and one to over the course of the year to cover the history of the entire game.
Wow. Oh my goodness, you could totally do like an incredible um sizzle reel, I guess, for lack of a better, where you could show just like clips of each sketch, like week over
Yeah,
week over week at the end as kind of a final promo video
and,
or roundup video. That would be really neat.
yeah. Well, we're getting close. We're
I
getting
know
ready
you
to.
are.
So I'm starting to think of what do I do when that happens to kind of put a bow on it. Um,
Yeah.
but the other thing is, I'm enjoying this so much that the show is just going to keep going.
Yeah. It's always the
I'll
problem.
bring the format. It won't always be D&D. It won't be in chronological order. But I've got lots of people to interview and 50 years of art from every game that I can think of. So
Yeah.
I don't think I'll run out of subjects, out of shows
Yeah.
anytime.
Yeah. Maybe your umbrella is just like geeky art for
Yeah,
lack of a
yeah.
better word, because it
Well, I
is
mean,
there's so much of it that falls into that category, right? You were saying earlier before we jumped on that you do manga and a couple of
yeah,
so there's certainly like other opportunities too within like comic books, manga, games, like all of the
yeah.
traditionally I don't know, yeah, I don't
Book
know, geek
covers, novel
book
covers.
covers,
Yeah,
novel covers. Yeah, you could have like novelists come on and be able to do yeah, the interviewing while drawing is a great
yeah.
format for the show, for sure.
It turns out, so people who know me know that if I'm drawing something and I'm thinking about it, I can't talk and concentrate at the same time. But if
Sorry.
I'm just recreating what someone else has done and I don't have to make the artistic decisions about what goes
Gotcha.
where.
Yeah.
I'm just doing a I'm just I know it's not just,
Yeah. It's not.
but for me it's a difference in brain activity. So I'm able to, and so much of interviewing is knowing when not to talk and let your you pose a question and you let your guest go.
Yeah. Yeah, and
I
you
like
can be
to talk.
drawing while they're talking too. So yeah, yeah, that
Yeah.
works.
It gives me something to do that's not interrupting them.
Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of that here and there where I'm
But
thinking of what I want to say next or thinking about the next thing. It's certainly the more you practice it, the better you get at it. Oh man, my marketing mind is going nuts. I'm like, you could
yeah,
open up a fourth wall shop if you haven't done this already and be able to have like, maybe it's like a mug or a book. They actually, I think they even do little like framed prints you could sell or use as a giveaway for your viewers. I guess you'd have to be careful of copyright stuff though if you're copying from
it's weird.
mm,
Uh, um, I'm doing, and I don't have it right next to me. I'm doing art prints that I sell
Yeah.
to people. I've got a Substack for the show,
Oh yeah.
and
Hmm.
if you're a subscriber there, then you have access to buying prints of the things.
Oh
But I'm
cool.
not
That's
kind
so
of
you're
making
you're
them
already in
broadly
it.
public
Yep.
again to try and avoid the.
Hmm.
It's a weird line, right? What I'm doing here is definitely uh, parody. Well, it's interpretation,
Hmm.
right? I'm doing a cartoon homage, but it is based on someone else's work. So where that line is fuzzier.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I can see that. So what are the so obviously screen sharing is a big deal. What are some of the other features that you're using in Ecamm?
Well, I get a live audience while I'm doing it, so
Hmm.
they can ask questions of the guests and interact with each other. I love it when the audience just handles themselves. And that also becomes a challenge to me because, as you know, while you're doing this, you can be talking to me, but you also can keep an eye on the chat. Well, I'm talking to someone and drawing, and sometimes I forget to look at the chat.
Oh, it is. It's really tricky. I'm just gonna show you because I it's something I don't go into live demo mode overly often, but it is. So like this is what Ecamm looks like. I try to
Right.
close any extra windows because I'm immediately distracted by absolutely everything. So it can be crazy. But I try to keep this comments and reactions window, pretty
Yeah.
big and pretty available to me. And I also realized recently, and I'm curious, Stan, if this is the case for you too. I was talking with one of our influencer, someone who does a ton of speaking and events and workshops for us, and she's like incredible at Ecamm. And I was talking with her about my workflow because I also define myself as not techie, so I try to keep things really simple, right? I keep
Yeah.
like I only have like this is it for scenes for me, right? So like that's it. They're as simple as possible. They're named very simply so I can find them.
Yeah.
And I don't have here at home a stream deck or any like other fancy equipment. I've tried to simplify all of that.
Yeah.
So I just put them in order and I click from like one to the next. And I still like, even though I know I could do hotkeys and I know I could attach a stream deck and I know I could build folders and have everything like, I could do the most. I don't
Right.
because my default, my muscle memory is to look at the camera and then I know that like I can glance down for a second and come over here and just
Nope.
click and it's both of us like and I
Take yourself off the screen.
right? And I know that I have that as a backup. I'm just noticing now. This is the fun of it. I'm noticing now that I'm muted in the stand only scene, right? So you can like I've tried to intentionally keep it really simple for that exact reason. I think I know what I'm best at and what I don't want to kind of mess with,
Right.
and I'm not sure that I'm not sure that doing all the things like many of our creators are doing would work for me and what I'm trying to accomplish because like you, I'm easily distracted and I want to make sure that I'm catching all of the comments that are coming through and I want to make sure that I'm able to like switch back and forth between the scenes and I'm thinking about I'm using this show as an opportunity to understand what our customers are doing better, potentially create case study materials for our blog or for our other resources. So I'm thinking
Right.
about what that final video looks like and how I can repurpose it. And so, yeah, exactly as Paul's saying, I make it only as complicated as needed. So, yeah, I'm with you on that. I think less is more in some cases
Yeah.
but it's funny because let me just jump out of live demo, but you're doing that like then you're also doing multiple camera angles you have because you have the I guess I'm considering your iPad as a camera, but you're doing
Right.
an additional camera angle or a screen share to be able to do that. So like that's already complicated enough. Like that's definitely techie. So trying to
Well,
keep the rest of it pretty simple, I think is a smart move.
well, my setup is very, very similar to yours. I keep
Right?
it. I I don't do the hotkeys for exactly the same reason. I know I could, but this comes naturally, and I can only think of my brain is full.
Yep. Yeah, I could. Do you know that we can even just press down, and I still don't do that. My muscle memory is
I I
to
did
go
not know
over and click it, so I don't want to mess with it because I know
that.
that like my brain is like, nope, just go up and click it. It also I
Yeah,
think reminds me because I've named them the way I've structured them and named them the way that I want the show to go, and so I
right.
think like glancing down at it and like clicking to move between the scenes also reminds me, oh, I wanted to be able to show Stan full screen. Oh, I wanted to be able to show,
Right.
his screen share. Oh, I know that I'm going to talk about the giveaway and community before I wrap, right? So like I think if I was only looking down at the down button or I wasn't looking at all at my computer screen, I actually might miss those. Like those that's my outline and my teleprompter notes at the same
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
But when you're a one-person production team,
Yeah.
you gotta have that.
Yeah.
Yes, same thing. The only thing I do have multiple folders because I have different sets of scenes. So
Mm.
I've been talking about the one show. There's a
Yeah.
whole other show. There's
Tell
a
us
whole
about the
second
other show. Let's dive into it. I love it.
I also do a show called Random Encounters,
Mm.
which is improv cartooning. Also lightly D&D based. I guess not that lightly, but encounter tables are a thing that happen in tabletop role playing games where
Yep.
you don't know who you're going to run into, and there's a
A lot
randomized
of it is
chance.
improv. Yeah, like a lot of it is
Yeah,
thinking on your toes and being able to
right,
continue storytelling when you don't know what's going to happen, right? Yeah.
right. So I'm going to come back here and switch this up.
Yeah, yeah, let me go away.
So Random Encounters here is the show.
Love it.
And I just last night I did my Thanksgiving special.
Ah, I love it so much.
Um, and so in the show, let
Inside you
me
over here.
open this up here. I have a set of encounter tables. And so I use an electronic die roller to select a who and a what,
Oh,
and then I draw that
fun.
thing. It's only I usually have six for for a special theme show. I'd knock it to four, so I don't have too many wasted ideas. But so for the first one last night, I did this. Uh, I had a beholder as a table centerpiece, and so I talk with the people in the chat, and I think, okay, here's what I'm thinking. And I start sketching. I start. Let me see. I can show you that too. I start. I do a sketch as we're talking about it,
Oh, I love it.
and then when it's done, once I've got it enough that I understand it, I do line drawings over the sketch, and then I add in color and take out the sketch lines, and we wind up with a cartoon. And I keep these to 30 minutes or less per cartoon.
This is so fun. I'll be right back. I just need to go subscribe to these channels so that I don't miss these episodes.
um,
It's so neat because again, I think it really adds structure to the show in a way that's really engaging, but it also
right.
like gives you structure and focus so that every episode is repeatable and you're able to build that consistency and, and not kind of be like, oh, well, what am I going to do next week? Like it's a, you just need to pick your theme and your topic or your guest in the case of the other show, but you have the entire structure is all built in. So yeah, this
I'm
is
noticing that I
great.
didn't finish the word balloon, so I want to do that while we're talking.
Well, while you're doing that, Val says that's what her Thanksgiving table looks like right
Yeah.
now.
So yeah. So
Oh,
in each episode, I do three cartoons. So it's about an hour and a half per show.
wow, these are great. I love being able to see the process too. I think it's like thinking through sort of the sketch and then the line
That's
drawings and then the color.
yeah. I
That
and I
is
spend a
awesome.
lot of time talking about the cartooning side of it. And although
Yeah,
this is D&D themed in the topics I'm picking,
yeah.
uh, most of the conversation on this show is about the drawing process and what I'm thinking and what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, what you can do at home. I encourage people to draw also, not necessarily the same things I am, but if they want to take this concept and draw their own version of it. And yeah,
I love it.
I've been doing this show for go to a year and a half now.
Wow.
And I this is the one I started doing with Ecamm when I figured out how to do the share screen section. Um,
How did you
and
how did you approach figuring some of this stuff out? So like when you were first jumping in, I know that Ecamm has like a ton of different windows and you had a pretty clear concept of what you wanted to do. So how did you tackle kind of figuring out how to build out your scenes and your profile and your show in Ecamm? Do you
well,
remember what your first steps were or how you thought through it?
I'd seen, so some of this is based on things other people have done.
Sure, yeah.
When I was in Japan, there was a cartooning show that I watched every week. I didn't understand a word of it, but I could watch what was going on, and
Yeah.
it was like a game show for cartoonists,
Cool.
where and that's what I was trying to replicate with the random encounter things. Like it's not, I'm
Yeah.
not coming in with a plan. It's like, here's an idea, draw it, and that's what their show was. And
Yeah.
I've seen other cartoonists do that as a live event at some uh, conventions and take audience requests and treat it like an improv show. And I thought that's great. I'd love that, and I want to do that. So how can I have an improv show when I don't have an audience and it's just me? And that's where the idea of bringing in
The
the
dice. Yeah,
random
the
encounter thing,
yeah.
well,
Yeah.
which itself goes back 2 years earlier. The first time I did this was during the 2020 Olympics, which was
Oh,
actually
yeah.
2021, the
Yeah.
Summer Olympics.
Yeah.
Um, and each day I did a live stream. That's when I was using just OBS. I'd figured out how to use OBS to get my screen up and get, I don't think I could get my face on at the same time, but I could get my screen, what I was drawing, onto the computer, and I could stream that.
Mhm.
And so I put together a big list of Olympic events and D&D creatures.
Oh, fun.
And each day I would come on and roll the dice and pick an event and a creature, and I would draw it and take about an hour and a half to do the full drawings. And I wound up then kickstarting that as a book. I did a book of the finished drawings and a coloring book of just the line drawings so that you could color it yourself.
That is such a fun idea. I
And
suppose it
I had
helps if you're creative, right? You can think through all these incredible ideas on neat things to do. But I love that you said, because I think this is an easy approach for a lot of people. So, consume the content you want to create and
right,
take notes on what you really like and what you don't like and think through how you can make that work through your unique lens, right? So you saw this idea, you liked it, you picked up a part of it and you ran
right,
with that through what you wanted to accomplish. So it's an easy way if you're sitting here watching and you're like, I really want to start doing this. I'm not exactly sure how to start. Start with thinking through what are the kinds of things that are similar to what you want to create and what do you really like about them?
yeah,
And
yeah.
take those elements and run with that because it's obviously it's possible if someone else is creating it and putting it out there, then it's possible for you to create, right?
Yes, and like we're talking about the I'm not techie, and
Hmm.
I'm not. But what I am good at is seeing something and either figuring out how it was done simply, or having someone explain to me, here's the process, and I can replicate that.
Yeah.
Give me a list of things to do and show me I can't fix it, I can't kit bash it, but I can do that thing over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what these shows have been about, is I found the simple way to do it. And sometimes I don't even know, I don't remember why I did it that way, so I can't fix it if it goes wrong. um, I've
That's
got to go and
that's
do
so
the
similar
research
to me.
all
Yeah.
over again.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, "Oh, what did I do there? How did I how did I do
How did I
that?
get that?
How did I get there?" Yeah, It is. I again, like I really, if I can challenge you all as we approach a holiday weekend to stop. Everything is already busy enough and big enough and complicated enough. So figure out what it is that you want to do, and as Stan said, like find the simplest way to get there, and then just repeat that over and over again. And when you have time or you're in a figure it out mood, sure, consider what else is possible and add extra things on. But yeah, starting with what you want to accomplish and getting the simplest path there. It may not be the path that, that other people are doing. It may not be the, even the quote unquote right way to do it. But if it's working for you, it's the right way to do it for you. So yeah.
Yeah,
These
and
cartoons are
to
incredible.
bring it back to this Ecamm, so good for that,
Yeah.
right? It a lot of it is really intuitive. Enough of
Yeah.
it is really intuitive that it makes it easier, even for me, to go. All right, well, I'll try something.
Yeah.
What was that?
And you can't I there's an old adage that says that you can't drive a parked car, right? So like you have to
Right,
start and do the things and take the steps, and then figure out which way you're going to steer, and how fast you're going to go, and all of these decisions. But if you don't go in with an idea and and the key to start the car, you're not going to be able to accomplish anything. So
right.
I think this is great. These shows seem so fun. This is the perfect way to spend a Wednesday before the holiday. I love it. And it looks like Marianne has got it all working. Yeah, connecting other resources into Ecamm is a really, really great way to level up without overcomplicating things. So they're
Yeah,
like you can even just adding in like a second camera angle, giving different viewpoints and perspectives, adding in and sharing from your phone or from your iPad. Like this is Procreate, right? This is an app
yeah,
on Stan's iPad. There's so many incredible apps out there that do all kinds of amazing things. Like think about what you can show people or demonstrate, or how you can incorporate some of these tools into your shows. It's really neat what's possible.
yeah.
It's these are fantastic. We should just sit here and watch these go through. I want print copies of all of these. They're so cute.
So
So,
he
so
says,
cute.
I'm a parked car. Put it in gear, Zahid. You can do it.
Yeah, you're a parked car. Oh no, let's help you get unparked. You'll have to let us know what is parking you. Sometimes it feels big, but like look again. Here, I'm going to show you all again. I'm in like Katie learning mode. Like
Yeah.
there's like am I using sound effects right now? Nope. I can close
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Like, do I want to make my overlays panel bigger? Yep, I can move that, over. Do I want to I'm going to hide like the interview window and make the comments window because that's what I want to focus on. Like Ecamm has way more than 1, 2, 3, 4 windows, but this is all I need to see right now because this is all I need to work on in order to do this particular project, right? So you need to, what might be parking you isn't actually the tech. What might be parking you is the big picture of what you want to do and what you want that to look like. So maybe you need to actually take a piece of paper, and maybe you need to sketch it out. And speaking of cartooning and drawing, maybe you actually need to draw it out in like comic style little boxes. Like, I want the first scene to look like this. I want the second scene to look like this. Once you have an idea of how to do that, the tech then becomes a lot easier. So if you're
Yeah.
not a techie person or you're feeling really parked or stuck, it actually might not be the tech. The tech is like the obvious shiny like big thing that we all look at first, but it's often not the actual problem. The problem in many cases is the content itself. So
Yeah.
that's
I
my pitch
often
anyway.
find that to be the case. That
Mm,
I think the tech is the problem, but really it's the excuse, right? I don't. It's the thing I don't know.
yeah.
It is something that I have to get over, and I don't know whether it's a speed bump or Mount Everest. So I don't try because
Mm,
uh, I don't want to climb Mount Everest. But when it turns out to just be a speed bump, I'm like, well, why did I wait 6 months to do that?
yeah. This wasn't Mount Everest. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
the
Exactly.
50 years in the dungeon was a really good example of I wasn't quite sure how that was going to work, but I knew that I needed to get going if I was going to do it in this year. So I just started and I solved the couple of issues that I had, and I was off to the races.
Yeah. A
Um,
deadline, I mean, a deadline will definitely do that. So a self-imposed deadline is a great way to kind of get cracking with it. And I love that, so you've gone now through almost the entire year. Congratulations. And now you're like now you can see what you love about the show, what's working really well, and that you want to continue it, right? And continuing it is going to change the scope of the show a little bit because it's not, you're not in the 50th year anymore, but it's still doable, and now you know how to
yeah,
do it, and you know what changes you need to make in order to continue that on and have that be its own long-term recurring project. So I think
yeah,
it's great, and again, you wouldn't have been able to do that if you hadn't just taken the steps and tried initially. So I think that's really
yeah.
smart. Well, let us know what's next for you. So continuing on this show, what other projects are up in queue?
Uh, what other Ecamm related projects
Sure,
or
you can or anything in
yeah,
between. What else is in the world of
so I
stand?
mean I've got so much going on. That's the thing about being a freelancer. You have to be moving or
Yep.
you're sinking.
Hmm.
Um, so uh, I've done the two drawing related shows.
Yeah.
I've also occasionally done just kind of talk interview. I did
Yeah.
another um, another game designer I know. We had a tradition when we went to the main gaming convention in the U.S. is called Gen Con
Yeah.
every summer
Hmm.
in Indianapolis, and we had a tradition of on Saturday night at Gen Con we would just go to a lobby and sit there in one of the hotels and hold court. And it was kind of open call. You can come and sit and hang out. It's like a ask me anything.
Love it.
But because we picked one of the main lobbies and other guests were coming by and we knew them, we would invite. It was like our little show, right? We just had a couch in the lobby and special guests would show up.
That is amazing.
Um, so we've done that as a stream uh, for the last couple of Gen Cons because we haven't gone, starting with COVID and
Hmm.
beyond. We just haven't gone back.
Yeah.
And I really like that format of the big, long chat.
Yeah. Just
Uh,
open time, questions, community. Yeah.
right. But I also thought it would be fun to do that at a show and stream it, right? To
Yeah.
kind of set it up. Because and now that's possible, right?
Hmm.
Certainly can
Absolutely.
go. We need a little team because
Yeah.
we need to have computers and cameras set up.
Yep.
But to do a live show at Gen Con or Comic Con or New York
Hmm.
Comic Con, um, at
Absolutely.
at Comic Con about 10 years ago, the last year I was living in San Diego, I didn't have a badge to go in, but I knew there's one restaurant that's between the convention center and downtown.
Yeah.
And so I sat there and started texting people, I've got a table at this place. If you need to come out and grab food, which is always a crazy thing to do at San Diego,
Oh, yeah.
uh, you can. This is a place called the Tin Fish, if you know it. It's just a
Oh, yeah.
little
Uh-huh.
fish and chips place, but it's always super crowded. So I grabbed a table and held it and told people, if you want to come out, I've got a table. You can get
Smart.
some food and go back
I
in.
love that.
And so I had a full day of that same thing. People just showed up, and it struck me then like, boy, if I could stream this, if there's a way that I could record this, I'd have the best guest show of all.
Hmm.
Everyone comes to the Tin Fish.
That would be really cool. I
Yep.
mean, even collecting like even if you can't do a full live stream from that
Right,
space, even just being able to record some video that then you could use in,
right.
as like B-roll or like let's, in the kind of idea of the variety show. It's like, we're going to
Yeah,
go over live over to this section
yeah,
and play the video clips and then back in, have a conversation and then back in. There's a lot you can do these days. So that would be awesome. I love that idea. Yeah, Doc is saying Mac Mini, portable monitor,
yeah,
small
yeah.
wireless mics. Yeah, Doc loves the portable
I
roller bag, the Pelican case.
I love the idea.
Yeah.
That's one I can't do on my own, though. I, I
Well,
need so maybe that's in my future if I
yeah,
figure out how to make that work.
that is
Um,
awesome.
in the meanwhile, I just finished doing a Kickstarter for a calendar with some
Oh,
of the art from
cool.
this show. In fact, I'm waiting for the. I sent it to the printer, so it should be showing up in my house sometime next week. We got. Here you go. Look at that. I'll turn it sideways.
Where can we get that? How can we order?
So, contact me
All right, I'm
because
gonna reach out.
I get. I'm not again part of that whole. I don't want to put it up and
Sure.
as a for sale product and draw the eye of Hasbro lawyers.
Mm-hmm.
I did it as a Kickstarter, and I printed a few extra,
Yeah.
so I will have some to sell. And also,
Awesome.
calendars are a terrible thing. They're a terrible business to get into because
I love a
they've got a
calendar, but I
sales
hear it.
window of 4 weeks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if folks want them, I know we've had ways to contact me up on the screen there.
Mm-hmm.
If you reach out to me, I will have some. They were $25 plus shipping,
Great.
which yeah, it's a little expensive, but
That's
printing's
that's
printing
pretty
costs.
standard calendar price.
Um,
That's what I would expect.
so yeah, so doing that. There's also, I'll tell you, since I'm selling right now,
Yeah. Sell
a
away.
a desk calendar version. So if you want the wall calendar or the desk postcard versions of the same thing.
Oh. All right, now I'm gift shopping. Well, since Cyber Weekend is around the corner, I'm taking all of my notes for gift selling. All right, well, stay right there, Stan. I'm just gonna swing over to remind folks about our currently upcoming, about to be over giveaway. I'm in sale mode. It's not a sale, it's a giveaway. So if you want to enter this giveaway, you can swing over ecamm.tv/giveaway, or you can scan the QR code that is on the screen and type in secret word, either 2 words or 1 word, both will work. And that should give you a bonus secret word to enter this giveaway. So looks like we have over 200,000 entries, which is incredibly crazy, but don't feel like that's 204,000 people. There's lots of different ways to enter. So your chances are still pretty good, and you could win a brand new M4 Mac Mini, a free year of Ecamm Live, a year of Opus Clip, all kinds of absolutely incredible things. And then again, Paul is sharing the link here. You just go to ecamm.tv/giveaway, or if you want a bonus entry, scan that QR code and send us a note that says secret word. And if you want to be part of our community, we would love for you to be part of our community. And sneak peek teaser here. We are only days away from Black Friday and Cyber Monday, and we do have some really incredible, exciting things coming for both new people and existing customers. So if you want to learn more about that, make sure you're signed up for our newsletter. To do that, you go over ecamm.com/community, and that will take you to this page where you can sign up for our newsletter, and you can find out where all of the Ecamm fam are hanging out. You can learn more about our beta program, our affiliate program, everything in between. All of that is over at ecamm.com/community. I did it. I went over to my scene. I looked at it. I did it. I've
I
simplified.
love. I'm a good number of those 2,000 is me too. I mean, I love that giveaway. I can't wait.
Stan's just
I did.
entering every 5 minutes. Yeah. Yeah. It always, I mean, it's certainly, I think the total amount of people is somewhere in the range of 2,000, 2,500, or somewhere around there. So the odds are pretty good, actually. And it's a really fun opportunity. So we love doing this. We want everyone to have a new computer. So definitely enter, spread the word. That ends on Cyber Monday. So it ends at like 11:59 p.m. on December 2nd. Is that what Monday is? I don't have my calendar in front of me.
Second,
December
yes.
2nd, I believe. Yes,
Correct.
December 2nd,
Correct.
Cyber Monday, 11:59 p.m. Eastern. That contest will end, and then we'll announce the winner on the Tuesday following. So definitely, yeah, enter. And thank you so much, Dan, for hanging out today. So one more time, where can people find you? So the info's down in the description, but name those shows.
The best way is to go to my link tree because
So that's down in the description. and in the comments. Yeah.
Almost everything. So most social media places, I am Stanex, STANNEX.
Mhm.
Recently, that's becoming, apparently there's some company in Europe that has that same name. So
Oh
it's,
no.
if I'm not Stanex, I'm usually the real Stanex. No,
Good
no
solve.
spaces, all cramped together.
Good solve.
But that's where to find me on most places. I'm on Facebook, and uh, I'm on, of course, I've got Patreon. I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm on Blue Sky. I'm everywhere.
Awesome. Down here is the link in the is in the comments. It's also in the description below. Well, thank you so much, Stan, and thanks to the whole Ecamm fam. And if you are in the US, huge happy Thanksgiving and have an amazing long weekend. If you are in any of our communities, we are collecting all of the incredible um, end of year deals and promos. So if you have one to share, there is a post both in Discord and in our Facebook group where you can share those so that we all get the best possible deals and help support each other. So if anyone has a deal, pop that in there. Stan, feel free to pop your calendar link in there if you want to sell some additional calendars. I'm gonna follow. I'm gonna follow up afterwards and learn more about that because I'm excited to grab one for a friend. So and happy Thanksgiving, Tatiana. Thanks for hanging out, Val, and everyone else. And we will see you in the next episode of Meet the Fam. The link is in the description. You could be our next guest. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you
Come on,
next
it was
time.
fun and easy. Be a guest.
Easy, I promise.
Easy.
No trick questions. We'll see you all next time. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving.